Welcome back to Practical AutoCAD and Inventor and our series on preparing for the Autodesk Inventor Certified User Exam. In this video, we're diving into an essential feature for any mechanical design, creating a hole feature in Autodesk Inventor. Whether you're adding simple drilled holes, countersinks, or complex threaded features, mastering the hole tool is key to creating accurate and functional parts, and it's a core skill you'll need to pass the Certified User Exam. We'll walk through everything from selecting placement points and defining hole types to adjusting dimensions and understanding best practices for hole creation. By the end of this video, you'll be confident in using the hole feature effectively, and you'll be one step closer to exam success. When creating a hole in Autodesk Inventor, it's best to put the hole in as a placed feature using the hole tool rather than drawing a circle in a sketch and using the extrude feature to put a cut feature in. And the reason is because there's a lot of intelligence built into the hole tool, and we're going to look at it now. So I've already got a block created here in Inventor. I'm going to make sure that I'm on the 3D model tab up here at the top, and then I'm going to go to the modify panel and I'm going to choose the hole tool right here on the ribbon. Once I do that, my hole properties dialog box pulls up, and I can simply move my mouse over the object and I can pick any surface where I want to create my hole. By default, it's going to make the hole perpendicular or normal to that surface. So once I pick my surface, you'll see that it simulates a hole, and the size of the hole and the finish on the hole is default. It's usually whatever the last hole is that you placed in an object. And so these numbers are going to be able to be changed, but you'll see here that it's simulating a hole inside of this object. Now this hole happens to go all the way through. It has a diameter of 1/2 inch. Now if I wanted to, I could just simply choose OK right now and it would put that hole in. But this hole is not really located and it's not controlled very well. So a couple things that we might want to know is how far is it from the center of this hole to the edge in two different directions. In order to put those dimensions in, I can simply move my mouse over to that edge, and you'll notice that a badge appears right next to the mouse that looks like a dimension. I can pick that corner and pick that edge, and you'll see that it puts in a number there, and it says, hey, right now that is 1.254, so I'm just going to change it to 1.25 from that edge, and then that controls it in one direction, but I still need to control it in two directions. You should always have holes in two directions for any hole, or dimensions in two directions for any hole. So I'm now going to move over to the perpendicular surface here. Notice that that same badge appears. I can click here, and it's giving me the option to add in a dimension here. So I'll say I want that also to be 1.25 inches. And at this point, I could choose OK. You'll see that the hole feature is created over here in the history browser and it appears in my model. If we expand the history browser over here, you'll see that there is a sketch underneath that hole, and if I activate that sketch, I could come in and I could change the location of the center point that that hole has created, and I could make it whatever I want. So I could say 1 inch here and 1 inch here, and then say finish, and you'll see that my hole moves based on that change to the sketch. Not only can I change the location of the hole, but I could change the type of the hole. If I just double click over here in the browser again on hole 1, you'll see that it brings that dialog back up and that there are different types of holes. There's a simple drilled hole, which will be the exact diameter that is down here in the diameter field. But then there's also a clearance hole or a threaded hole or a taper tapped hole. Okay, and then there are different seats that you might need a screw. So there's no seat, and then there's a counterbore seat or a surf spot face seat or a countersink seat, depending on what you need. So Inventor has a complete catalog of all of the sizes of just about any screw or bolt that you might need to put into anything, and you can change any of that. So for example, I simply told this before that this is going to be a hole for a 1/2 inch hole, but if I was going to try to put a 1/2 inch bolt through this hole, obviously it's not going to fit. You can't really put a 1/2 inch bolt through a 1/2 inch hole. It needs to be a little bit larger. So if I wanted that to be a clearance hole, I could simply change right here to the clearance hole option, and you'll see now that it changes a little bit. It says, okay, what are we doing? We're doing an ANSI unified screw thread for a flathead machine screw, and right now it's a single-aught size, which is actually very small, but I could come down here and I can say I want it to be a 1/2 inch size. So you'll notice that my bolt is a 1/2 inch size, but the diameter of the hole now is about a 32nd of an inch bigger than a 1/2 inch. And that's a normal fit for a hole, so that the bolt has plenty of room to go through. There are 3 choices to which type of fit you want. There's the normal fit, which is a 32nd of an inch clearance. There's a close fit, which is about a 64th of an inch clearance, or there is a loose fit, which makes it 3/32 of an inch clearance. So you can go in here and you can change that to whatever size is appropriate for your tool. You can also say, do I want this to go all the way through, or do I want it to go to a certain distance, or do I want to, say a certain distance from, or to a surface, or a distance from the top surface. So if I only wanted this to go, say, halfway through, I could come in here and I could say, instead of it going all the way through, I could give it a distance here and say like 0.75, and you'll notice here that my hole does not go all the way through now, but it only goes about halfway through this object. So that's the first way of placing a hole. So again, you can simply pick your surface, pick your edge, 1.25, pick your second edge, 1.25, change the type of hole. This time I will say I want a clearance hole, but maybe I want it to be for a counter bore and not a hex head bolt, but a socket head cap screw that has a 1/2 inch diameter, and I'll just stick with 1/2 inch because that seems to work. And again, what it's going to do is it's going to create the correct size hole for a socket head cap screw, so it would fit straight down in there perfectly. And again, I don't have to look up any of that information, but it's simply ready to go. Now, in addition to actually choosing the surface or the points on your surface, you can also use a sketch. So in this block here, I've simply created a sketch and I put a couple of holes or a couple of points in the sketch that I wanted to maybe use for some holes. So again, I make sure I'm on the 3D model tab up here at the top. I want the hole option or hole tool, and because I already had those points defined, it's going to say, hey, do you want holes in those 2 points? And it assumes that I do, and it says I want it, and it'll put them in there. If I had 4 points on here, it would put holes on all 4 points. It doesn't discriminate. It's going to say, do you want holes on all of those points? If I don't want all of those points, I can hold shift and I can deselect that one so that it doesn't do that one. Or if I want it again, I can just pick it and it'll put it back in there again. So to deselect a hole, you can hold shift and you can pick and it will deselect. So now it's only going to do the first one. If I want to add points in, I can pick. Another thing you can do is you can say, I want my input geometry, and this is going to allow me to basically do the same thing. It's basically saying 2 positions right now. If I click on this little X, it clears them both out and it allows me to pick them here. Same process. And then I can choose OK. Now the last thing that we can do very easily in Autodesk Inventor is put in a cylinder or put a hole in a cylindrical surface that is concentric with the outside surface. So let's say I wanted a hole to go through here that was concentric with the outside edge. Again, I'll go to the hole tool and I'm just going to change it to a simple hole this time with no seat whatsoever. I'm going to give it a diameter of, let's say, 1 inch. I can pick the surface, then I can pick the outside edge and it makes it centered right there. I can choose OK, and now it is completely constrained and ready to go. So this concludes the video on how to place holes in Autodesk Inventor. Thanks for watching.